The hidden burden of being the strong one. Why the people everyone relies on are often carrying the heaviest emotional load. Hello and welcome to Holistic Heart Counseling. My name is Uzma. Today I want to talk about something that affects many successful professionals, leaders, business owners, parents, carers, and high achievers. Something rarely discussed openly, the hidden burden of being the strong one. Perhaps you are the person everyone calls when there is a problem, the person who remains calm during a crisis, the person who provides solutions, the person who carries responsibility, the dependable one, the resilient one, the capable one. From the outside, people may admire your strength, but what they often fail to see is the emotional cost of constantly being that person. Because strength has a shadow, and many strong people carry invisible burdens that nobody notices. Today's conversation is not about weakness, it's about the emotional price of always appearing strong. As Viktor Frankl once said, what is to give light must endure burning. Many strong people spend years giving light to others while quietly burning themselves out. And if that resonates with you, this conversation may be exactly what you need today. Everyone comes to you. Think about your life for a moment. When somebody is struggling, who they call. When there is conflict in the family, who steps in. When there is pressure at work, who takes responsibility. When someone needs advice, who listens. For many people watching this video, the answer is simple. You. You are the person people rely on. You are the problem solver. You are the stabilizer. You are the emotional shock absorber. And over time, something interesting begins to happen. People become as accustomed to your strength that they stop noticing your humanity. They assume you are fine. They assume you can handle it. They assume you don't need support. The stronger you appear, the less support you often receive. Not because people don't care, but because they believe you don't need it. And eventually, you may find yourself carrying everyone's burdens while carrying your own in silence. The painful reality is this: many strong people are surrounded by people who appreciate them, yet very few truly understand them. The strong one identity. Being strong is not a personality trait, it is often a role developed through life experience. Sometimes this role develops in childhood. Perhaps you were the responsible child, the mature child, the helper, the peacemaker, the one who learned very early that other people needed you. You discovered that being useful felt safer than being vulnerable. You learned to suppress your own needs, to prioritize everyone else. And over time, strength stopped being something you did. It became who you were. Within the strong outside, empty inside framework, we call this pattern the strong one identity. It describes the tendency to become the person everyone relies on while gradually disconnecting from your own emotional needs. Psychologists sometimes call this role based identity. The danger is that once strength becomes your identity, asking for help can begin to feel uncomfortable, even threatening, because you start believing, um, I must always be the strong one. I must always cope. I must not fall apart. I must not become a burden. And that belief can become incredibly exhausting. The hidden burden is not the responsibility itself. The hidden burden is believing you must carry it alone. How the strong one identity develops. The question is not whether you became strong. The question is why. Very few people wake up one morning and decide to become emotionally self sufficient. More often, strength develops as an adaptation, a survival strategy, a response to circumstances. Many strong people grew up in environments where vulnerability felt unsafe. Perhaps emotions were dismissed. Perhaps conflict was common. Perhaps there was instability, criticism, neglect, illness, addiction, financial hardship, or emotional unpredictability. The child quickly learns something important. If I stay strong, things feel safer. If I stay useful, I am valued. If I take care of others, I belong. Over time, the nervous system becomes conditioned to remain alert, responsible, and emotionally available to everyone else. Yet, very little attention is given to the individual's own emotional needs. This patterns this pattern often follows people into child adulthood. They become the reliable employee, the dependable manager, the responsible parent, the supportive partner, the successful business owner, the trusted friend. People admire their strength, but beneath that strength often exists a quieter truth, a fear of disappointing others, a fear of letting people down, a fear of appearing weak. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The challenge for many strong people is that they became who others needed them to be long before they discovered who they truly were. And that is where the burden begins. You may be the strong one if many people do not recognize themselves as the strong one. They simply think, this is who I am. Yet there are common patterns. You may be the strong one if people regularly come to you for emotional support, but you rarely ask for support yourself. You may be the strong one if you feel guilty resting while others still need help. You may be the strong one if asking for help feels uncomfortable. You may be the strong one if you minimize your own struggles because other people have it worse. You may be the strong one if you feel responsible for everyone's well being. You may be the strong one if you often say, I'll deal with it. It's fine. Don't worry about me. I've got this. Even when internally you are exhausted. Many high achievers become experts at appearing calm while privately struggling. Many leaders become experts at projecting confidence while carrying enormous pressure. Many carers become experts at supporting others while neglecting themselves. The strongest people often become very skilled at hiding pain, not because they are dishonest, because they believe that staying strong is their responsibility. But eventually, the mass becomes heavy, and carrying it every day requires energy, a great deal of energy. The hidden cost, what nobody talks about. There is a cost of being the strong one. Within the strong outside, empty inside framework, the strong one identity is the first pillar because many of the struggles people experience later in life often begin here. A cost that often goes unnoticed because the world rewards strength. It celebrates productivity, achievement, leadership, resilience, success. But the world rarely discusses is the emotional price. Many strong people quietly experience loneliness, not because they are alone, because they feel unseen. Many experience emotional exhaustion, not because they are weak, because they have been carrying too much for too long. Many experience resentment, not because they do not care about others, because they have forgotten how to care for themselves. Many experience burnout, emotional numbness, disconnection, difficulty receiving support, difficulty trusting others, difficulty even relaxing. Their nervous system becomes accustomed to responsibility. Even rest begins to feel uncomfortable. The tragic irony is that strong people often become trapped by the very qualities that once protected them. The strength that helped them survive can eventually prevent them from healing. As Brené Brown wisely observed, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we suppress pain, we often suppress joy, connection, peace, and fulfillment as well. The hidden burden is not merely carrying responsibility. The hidden burden is believing that your worth depends upon carrying it. And that belief can slowly become one of the heaviest burdens a person will ever carry. The CEO nobody worried about. Let me tell you about someone I will call Michael. Michael was the CEO of a successful company. From the outside, his life looked impressive: a beautiful home, a successful business, a respected reputation, a strong marriage, financial security. People admired him, employees trusted him, clients respected him. His family relied on him. Everyone believed Michael had everything under control. What nobody saw was what happened after the meetings ended. What nobody saw was the exhaustion, the loneliness, the constant pressure, the feeling that everyone needed something from him. For years, Michael had become the person who solved problems. Whenever there was a crisis, he stepped forward. Whenever someone struggled, he offered support. Whenever there was uncertainty, he projected confidence. But eventually, he realized something painful. He had built a life where everybody knew who he could do. Very few people knew how he felt. One evening, sitting alone in his office, after everyone had gone to home, he asked himself a question. If I stop being useful tomorrow, who would still see me? That question changed everything because beneath the success was a man who had spent decades carrying responsibility while neglecting his own emotional needs. Michael's story is not unusual. It is the story of many leaders, many parents, many carers, many helpers, many strong people. The story is different. The burden is often the same. How to put down the burden? Healing does not mean becoming weak. Healing means becoming whole. Many strong people fear that if they stop carrying everything, everything will fall apart. But healing is not about abandoning responsibility, it is about creating balance. The first step is awareness, recognizing the role you have been playing, recognizing how much pressure you have been carrying, recognizing that strength and self sacrifice are not the same thing. The second step is permission. Give yourself permission to have needs, permission to feel tired, permission to ask for support, permission to rest, permission to be human. The third step is boundaries. Healthy boundaries are not selfish, they are protective. They allow you to care for others without abandoning yourself. The fourth step is connection. Strong people often spend years supporting others. Healing requires learning how to receive support as well. Not just giving, but receiving as well. And finally comes self worth. Learning that your value is not determined by how much you carry. Your worth does not come from fixing everyone else's problems. Your worth exists because you exist. That's right. Your worth exists because you exist. As psychologist Rogers said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Healing begins when you stop earning your worth through suffering. A conversation with yourself. With yourself. I would like to leave you with a few questions. Not questions to answer immediately, questions to sit with, questions to reflect upon. Ask yourself, when did I first learn that I needed to be strong? Who taught me that lesson? Was strength something I chose or something I needed for survival? What happens inside me when I need help? Do I ask for it or do I convince myself that I should handle everything alone? What am I afraid would happen if I stop being strong all the time? Would people reject me? Would people be disappointed? Would I feel guilty? Or would I finally feel free? Who takes care of the person who takes care of other or everyone else? Who supports the supporter? Who listens to the listener? Who notices the strong one? And perhaps the most important questions of all, do I believe I am worthy of love, care, and support even when I am not being useful? Because the answer to that question often reveals the deepest part of the burden. And sometimes it reveals the beginning of healing. Take a moment to reflect on your answers. You may wish to write your responses in a journal and notice what emotions, thoughts, or memories arise. For workshop participants, take 5 minutes to quietly reflect and write your answers before moving on. Remember, awareness is often the first step towards healing and change. You were never meant to carry everything alone. If today's message resonated with you, I want you to hear this clearly. You were never meant to carry everything alone. You were never meant to be everyone's source of strength while having nowhere to place your own burdens. You were never meant to earn love through sacrifice. You were never meant to prove your worth through exhaustion. Strength is a beautiful quality, but strength without support eventually becomes suffering. The strongest people are not those who will never need help. The strongest people are those who have the courage to acknowledge when they do. If you recognize yourselves in today's conversation, please remember you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to be human. And perhaps most importantly, you are allowed to be supported too. And this is why the strong one identity forms the foundation of the strong outside, empty inside framework. The strong one identity is often only the beginning. Many people later discover deeper patterns beneath the surface, including the unloved wound, the overgiver pattern, the emotional burnout cycle, and the fear of abandonment. Within the strong outside, empty inside framework, these patterns often work together, influencing how we see ourselves, relate to others, and navigate life's challenges. Understanding these patterns is not about labeling yourself, it is about developing greater self awareness, self compassion, and creating opportunities for healing and growth. Because healing begins when we recognize that strength does not require self sacrifice and resilience does not require carrying everything alone. As we continue building the strong outside, empty inside framework here at Holistic Heart Counseling, remember this: together we are building a path from survival towards healing, self understanding, and emotional freedom. Real strength is not carrying everything, real strength is knowing when you no longer need to carry it alone. Thank you for spending this time with me. My name is Uzma, the Holistic Heart Counseling, and until next time, please take care of yourself with the same compassion you so freely give to others. If today's conversation spoke to something inside you, if you have spent years being the strong one, if you have achieved success but still feel emotionally exhausted, then remember you do not have to carry everything alone. And healing begins the moment you become honest about what you have been carrying. If you would like to continue this journey, I have written a book called Why You Feel Empty Even When You Are Strong, where I explore these patterns in much greater depth. You will find the link in the description below. Until next time, take care of yourself with the same compassion you so freely give to everyone else. Please watch my next video, When Everyone Depends on You. Before you leave, I would like to invite you to continue this journey with me. If today's conversation resonated with you, then the next video is in the Strong Outside, Empty Inside series is especially important. It's called When Everyone Depends on You. Many people who feel emotionally empty are not weak. In fact, they are often the strongest people in the room. They are the ones everyone calls during a crisis, the ones who solve problems, the ones who hold families together, the ones who carry responsibilities nobody else sees. And over time, something dangerous can happen. You become as focused on supporting everyone else that you forget how to support yourself. You become everyone's safe place while having nowhere safe to rest yourself. In my next video, we will explore the hidden emotional cost of being the person everyone relies on. We will look at why so many capable, responsible, and successful people feel trapped by the expectations placed upon them. And most importantly, we will discuss how to begin creating healthier boundaries without losing your compassion, your leadership, or your sense of purpose. If that sounds familiar, click on the next video now. And if you are finding value in this series, please subscribe to Holistic Heart Counseling. My mission is simple: to help strong people stop suffering in silence. I will see you in the next video, when everyone depends on you. Notice how heavy that burden has become. Many strong people, when everyone depends on you. Welcome back to Holistic Heart Counseling. I am Uzma. Today, I want to talk about something that affects far more people than most realize. It affects leaders, business owners, professionals, parents, caregivers, the people everyone relies on, the people who appear calm, capable, and dependable, the people who seem to have everything under control. People often assume that strength protects us from struggle. But in my experience, the opposite is often true. Some of the strongest people I have ever met are carrying burdens nobody sees. They are managing businesses, leading teams, supporting family members, helping friends through crisis, holding everyone together, and somewhere along the way, they become so focused on supporting others that they stop noticing what is happening inside themselves. Today's conversation is called When Everyone Depends on You because there is a hidden emotional cost that comes with becoming the reliable one, the dependable one, the responsible one, the person who never lets anyone down. The question is not whether um, people depends on you. The question is what happens when everyone depends on you, but nobody notices when you are struggling. What happens when your value becomes connected to your ability to carry everything? And what happens when the person who supports everyone else, quietly begins to run out of strength? Today, we are going to explore the psychology behind this pattern, the emotional cost of caring too much, and how to begin creating a healthy relationship with responsibility without losing your compassion, leadership, and on purpose. Because true strength is not carrying everything alone. True strength is knowing when you need support too. The person everyone calls. There is a person in almost every family, workplace, and friendship group. When something goes wrong, everyone calls them. When people need advice, they call them. When a crisis happens, they call them. When emotions become overwhelming, they call them. Perhaps that person is you. People trust you because you are reliable. They feel safe with you because you remain calm. They admire you because you seem capable. But what many people never see is what happens after those conversations end, after the meetings finishes, after the family crisis settles, after everyone goes home. You sit alone carrying not only your own responsibilities but often the emotional weight of everyone else around you. And because you have become so accustomed to being strong, you don't always notice how heavy that burden has become. Many strong people develop an unspoken belief: if I stop holding everything together, everything will fall apart. It feels responsible, it feels noble, it even feels necessary. But it also creates a dangerous trap because no human being was designed to carry endless responsibility without support. No human being was designed to constantly give without receiving. No human being was designed to function as everyone else's emotional safety net. Yet, this is exactly what many successful people attempt to do. The irony is that the stronger you appear, the less likely people are to ask if you're okay because everyone assumes you're fine. And over time, The person everyone depends on begins to feel increasingly alone, not because they lack people around them, but because nobody sees how much they are carrying. That loneliness can become one of the heaviest burden of all. Being needed can become a prison. There is nothing wrong with being dependable. There is nothing wrong with being caring. There is nothing wrong with helping others. The problem begins when your identity becomes dependent upon being needed, when your self worth becomes connected to solving problems, when your value becomes measured by how much you carry. Many high functioning people unknowingly build their entire identity around responsibility. They become the fixer, the rescuer, the leader, the provider, the caretaker, the strong one. And because these roles often bring praise, appreciation, and respect, they become difficult to let go of. People begin saying like things like this: we couldn't do this without you. You are the only person I trust. You're always so strong. At first, these comments feel rewarding, but eventually they become expectations. And expectations become pressure. The pressure to always be available, the pressure to always be capable, the pressure to always have answers, the pressure to never struggle. The problem is that real human beings are not machines. We need rest. You need rest. You need support. You need care. You need understanding. But when your identity becomes built around being needed, asking for help can begin to feel uncomfortable, even shameful. You become trapped by the very role that once made you feel valued. And that is why so many successful people quietly suffer. Not because they are weak, but because they have spent so many years being strong for everyone else that they no longer know how to receive support themselves. Being needed can feel meaningful, but when it becomes your identity, it can slowly become a prison. Why we become the reliable one? The question is not simply why do people depend on you? The deeper question is why are you so comfortable carrying responsibility that other people avoid? Why are you the one who steps forward when everyone else steps back? Why do you find yourself saying, I'll handle it, I'll sort it out, leave it with me, again and again? For many people, this pattern begins long before adulthood. It often begins in childhood. Perhaps you were the responsible child, the mature child, the helper, the peacemaker, the child who noticed everyone else's emotions, the child who learned to manage situations before they became problems. Maybe you learned that being useful earned approval. Maybe being responsible earned praise. Maybe helping others gave you a sense of safety. Over time, your brain begins to associate responsibility with identity. You stop helping because you choose to, you help because it becomes who you are. This is important because Eventually, you may struggle to separate your value from your usefulness. You begin believing, if I stop helping, who am I? If I stop carrying responsibility, what purpose do I serve? If I say no, will people still value me? Psychologically, this is where many strong people become trapped, not by responsibility itself, but by the belief that their worth depends upon carrying it. And that belief can quietly follow someone for decades. As Carl Jung wisely said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But many reliable people spend years becoming who everybody else needs them to be. And that is where the burden often begins. Everyone depends on you if many people do not realize they have become everyone's emotional safety net. They simply think this is normal. So, let me describe a few signs. You may recognize yourself. Everyone depends on you if people regularly come to you with problems but rarely ask about yours. Everyone depends on you if you are usually the person organizing, fixing, planning, supporting, managing, or rescuing situations. Everyone depends on you if your phone constantly receives messages asking for help, advice, reassurance, or solutions. Everyone depends on you if you struggle to say no. Everyone depends on you if you feel guilty when you prioritize yourself. Everyone depends on you if resting feels uncomfortable. Everyone depends on you if asking for help feels harder than giving it. Everyone depends on you if you secretly believe no one can do it properly unless I do it. Everyone depends on you if people describe you as strong, reliable, dependable, capable, and yet privately you feel exhausted. Many strong people become experts at appearing calm, experts at appearing in control, experts at appearing resilient. Meanwhile, internally, they may be overwhelmed. The world sees competence, the world sees leadership, the world sees confidence, but the world rarely sees the emotional load underneath. And because these patterns are rewarded, many people continue carrying more and more responsibility without ever asking themselves an important question: who is carrying me? Because eventually, every strong person reaches a point where that questions matter. The emotional price of being reliable. There is a cost to being the person everyone depends upon. The cost is rarely visible at first. In fact, being needed often feels good. It creates meaning, purpose, importance, connection. People appreciate you, respect you, trust you. But over time, the hidden costs begin to appear. Many reliable people experience chronic emotional exhaustion, not because they are weak, because they have been carrying too much for too long. Many experience loneliness, not because they are alone, because nobody seems to notice when they need support. Many experience resentment, not because they do not love uh, helping, because they quietly wonder why nobody asks how they are coping. Many experience burnout and exhaustion that sleep alone cannot fix. Because emotional depletion requires emotional recovery. Many begin losing touch with their own needs, their own dreams, their own feelings, their own limits. Everything becomes focused on everyone else. The greatest danger is that responsibility starts replacing identity. That's right. The greatest danger is that responsibility starts replacing identity. You become known for what you do, not who you are. And eventually, the burden becomes invisible, not only to other people, but to yourself. You become so accustomed to carrying everything that you forget what it feels like to put it down. As Brené Brown once said, we can only love others as much as we love ourselves. The same principle applies to care. We can only sustainably care for others when we also care for ourselves. Because carrying everyone else's burden while ignoring your own eventually leads to the very thing strong people fear most, breaking under a weight nobody realized they were carrying. The executive who could never switch off. Let me tell you about someone I will call David. David was a senior executive, high respected, financially successful, a natural leader, the kind of person everyone trusted. His team depended on him, his family depended on him, his friends depended on him, his clients depended on him. People described him as calm under pressure, reliable, capable, strong, and they were right. But they only saw one side of the story. What nobody saw was what happened after work, when the phone continued ringing, when emails continued arriving, when family members needed support, when friends needed advice, when people expected him to solve problems. David never switched off, not because he couldn't, because he didn't know how. He had spent so many years being responsible that responsibility became his default setting. Eventually, he reached a point where he felt exhausted all the time, not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. One day, he said something that changed everything. He said, I don't know what I want anymore. I only know what everybody else needs. That sentence captures the experience of many people watching this video. When everyone depends on you, it becomes very easy to lose yourself. Not suddenly, gradually. One responsibility at a time, one expectation at a time, one sacrifice at a time, until one day you realize you have become an expert at taking care of everyone's except yourself. And that is when the healing journey must begin. how to support others without losing yourself. Healing does not mean abandoning a responsibility. It does not mean becoming selfish. It does not mean caring less. It means creating a healthy relationship with responsibility. And the first step is awareness. Recognizing how much you have been carrying, recognizing the emotional weight you have normalized, recognizing that your needs matter too. The second step is boundaries. Healthy boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They allow you to remain compassionate without becoming overwhelmed. They allow you to support others without sacrificing yourself. The third step is learning to receive. Many strong people are excellent at giving, poor, but poor is at receiving. They can support everyone else, but struggle when supporting is offered to them. Healing requires learning that receiving is not weakness. It is part of being human. The fourth step is reconnecting with yourself. Reconnecting with yourself. What do you enjoy? What do you need? What brings you peace? What brings you joy? Many people who carry others lose contact with these questions. The fifth step is self worth. Understanding that your value is not determined by how much you do for others. Your worth is not earned through exhaustion. Your worth exists independent of your usefulness. As Carl Rogers wisely said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. The moment you stop proving your worth through sacrifice is often the moment real healing begins. Who supports the supporter? I would like to leave you with a few questions. Questions that may feel uncomfortable but important. Ask yourself, who do I call when I need support? Who knows what I am carrying? Who sees beyond my strength? Who sees beyond my competence? Who knows what I am struggling with? When was the last time I allowed someone to help me? Do I believe I am worthy of care even when I am not helping anyone? Do I rest without guilt? Do I say no when necessary? Do I know the difference between compassion and self sacrifice? And perhaps the most important question of all, if I stop being useful tomorrow, would I still believe I am valuable? Many strong people spend years building lives around responsibility. Very few spend time examining the beliefs underneath that responsibility. These questions are not designed to judge you, they are designed to help you understand yourself. Because awareness is the beginning of change, and often the strongest people need that awareness more than anyone else. Not because they are broken, because they have been carrying too much for too long. You are allowed to need help too. If today's message resonated with you, I want you to hear something clearly. You are allowed to need help too. You are allowed to feel tired. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to ask for support. You are allowed to be human. Being strong does not mean carrying everything alone. Being responsible does not mean sacrificing yourself. Being dependable does not mean ignoring your own needs. True strength includes vulnerability. True leadership includes self awareness. True compassion includes self compassion. The strongest people are not those who never struggle. The strongest people are those who acknowledge their struggles and continue moving forward with honesty. As we continue building the strong outside, empty inside framework here at Holistic Heart Counseling, remember this: the goal is not to stop caring for others, the goal is to stop abandoning yourself while doing it. You deserve the same care, patience, understanding, and compassion that you so freely give to everyone else. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Uzma, and until next time, please take gentle care of yourself. Continue your healing journey. If today's conversation resonated with you, if you have spent years carrying responsibilities nobody sees, if you have become the person everyone depends on, then I invite you to continue this journey with me. In my book, Why You Feel Empty Even When You Are Strong, I explore the hidden emotional burdens that many strong, capable, and caring people quietly carry. We look at emotional loneliness, self worth, burnout, people pleasing, the pressure of always being strong, and how to begin building a healthy relationship with yourself. You will find the link in the description below. Remember, you do not need to earn your worth through exhaustion. You matter because you are human, and healing begins the moment you stop carrying everything alone. Watch the next video, The Caretaker Identity Nobody Talks About. Before you leave, I would like to invite you to continue this journey. Our next video explores a pattern that affects many caring, responsible, and emotionally intelligent people. It's called the caretaker identity nobody talks about. Many people become so focused on looking after others that they lose touch with their own needs, desires, and identity. They become everyone's source of support, but rarely receive support themselves. In the next video, we will explore why this happens, where it begins, and how to break free from hidden expectations that come with the caretaker role. If today's message resonated with you, I believe the next video will too. Please subscribe to Holistic Heart Counseling, visit our website for resources and support, and click the next video Before we begin, I want to ask you a simple question. When was the last time someone asked you how you were doing emotionally? Not how your job is going, not how your family is doing, whether you are paying the bills, not whether you are meeting everyone's else expectations, but genuinely asked, how are you doing inside? Because many people spend years carrying emotional pain silently. They become the strong one, the responsible one, the person everyone depends on, the person who never complains, the person who keeps going no matter what. And after a while, people stop seeing the human being behind the strength. They only see the strength. What they don't see is the exhaustion, the loneliness, the emotional burden, the silent tears, the part of you that feel unseen, unheard, and unsupported. Today's video is for those people, the people who look strong on the outside but feel empty on the inside. And if that's you, I want you to know that you are not alone. Some people look strong to everyone else. They go to work, they take care of responsibilities, they help family, they support friends, they keep functioning. And because they keep functioning, nobody realizes how emotionally exhausted they truly are. Inside, they feel drained, disconnected, numb, alone. Sometimes they sit quietly and wonder, how did I become this empty? And the hardest part is, many strong people do not even allow themselves to admit they are struggling because somewhere in life they learned that survival was more important than emotions. They learned to keep going even when emotionally breaking inside. They, there are people listening to this right now who have spent years carrying emotional pain silently. People who became the strong one in the family, the responsible one, the helper, the fixer, the one everyone depends on. But nobody asks them who is supporting you emotionally. And over time, constantly carrying emotional weight without emotional safety changes a person psychologically, who you may still function externally, but internally you begin feeling emotionally disconnected from yourself. Sometimes this emotional emptiness does not happen suddenly. It builds slowly over years, years of stress, years of emotional neglect, years of hiding pain, years of pretending to be okay. And eventually, the body keeps functioning, but the soul feels tired. Many emotionally exhausted people were not allowed to express emotions safely growing up. Maybe you had an aggressive parent. Maybe your emotions were ignored. Maybe you were criticized constantly. Maybe you learned that crying was weakness. Maybe you had to become emotionally mature too early. Some children become caretakers emotionally. Some become invisible. Some become peacekeepers. And some become strong before they were ever allowed to simply be children. So they grow into adults who struggle to rest emotionally, adults who feel guilty asking for help, adults who comfort everyone else while silently collapsing inside. And many people do not realize this. Sometimes emotional emptiness is not weakness, it is emotional survival. When a person spends years in survival mode, the nervous system adapts. I repeat, when a person spends years in survival mode, the nervous system adapts. You stop feeling fully connected to yourself. You stop feeling emotionally safe. You may even stop knowing what you truly feel. Some people describe it like this: I feel emotionally numb. Others say, I feel tired all the time. Some say, I don't feel happy anymore. And some people simply say, I don't know who I am anymore. One of the most painful things about emotional exhaustion is that high functioning people often suffer silently because society praises people who keep performing. People say, you are so strong, you handle everything so well, you always help others. But what people do not see is the emotional cost of always being strong. Sometimes strong people cry alone at night. Sometimes they feel emotionally lonely in crowded rooms. Sometimes they smile while emotionally drowning inside. And many people become so used to hiding pain, they no longer know how to ask for support. There are also people who become emotionally empty after heartbreak, betrayal, loss, or toxic relationships, especially when someone gives love, energy, patience, and emotional support for years and receives a very little emotional safety in return. Over time, the emotional system becomes exhausted. Some people become emotionally detached, some become angry, some become numb, some isolate themselves, some overwork, some emotionally shut down completely. And many people silently wonder, why can't I feel like myself anymore? The truth is, unhealed emotional pain affects the entire human being. It affects sleep, energy, relationships, motivation, self worth, and even physical health. Chronic emotional stress can create anxiety, burnout, emotional fatigue, irritability, hopelessness, and deep loneliness. And sadly, many people keep ignoring these signs because they believe they must continue being strong for everyone else. But emotional pain does not disappear simply because it is hidden. Sometimes the pain becomes heavier because it was never spoken. One thing I want people to understand is this: needing emotional support does not make you weak. Being emotionally overwhelmed does not mean you failed. And feeling emotionally exhausted after years of carrying pain is a very human response. Many people were never taught emotional regulation. Many were never taught healthy boundaries. Many were never shown emotional safety. So they learned survival instead. And survival can make a person appear strong externally while feeling completely disconnected internally. Sometimes healing begins with something very small, not fixing everything overnight, not pretending to be positive, not forcing yourself to move on. Sometimes healing begins when someone finally feels emotionally heard without judgment. When someone can finally say, I am tired, I am hurting, I don't want to carry this alone anymore, without shame, without criticism, without being dismissed. And if you relate to this video deeply, please know this. You are not weak because you are emotionally tired. You are not broken because life affected you emotionally. You are not failing because you struggle silently. Sometimes people become emotionally empty because they spend too many years emotionally surviving. But emotional exhaustion is not the end of your story. Healing is possible slowly, gently, step by step. People can reconnect with themselves again. People can learn emotional safety again. People can learn boundaries again. People can learn to stop abandoning themselves emotionally. And people can learn that their emotions matters too. If this video spoke to something you have been silently carrying, I want you to remember this. You do not need to wait until complete emotional collapse before seeking support, and you do not have to carry everything alone forever. Sometimes the strongest thing a human being can do is finally allow themselves to be emotionally sane. If this video resonated with you, please subscribe for more emotional healing and psychology based content. If this message spoke to something you have been silently carrying, my book Strong Outside, Empty Inside is available now on Amazon. You can find the link in the video description and pinned comment below. Thank you for listening and take a good care of yourself. Why you fear abandonment? Before we begin, I want to ask you a question. Why you fear abandonment? Before we begin, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever become anxious when someone takes too long to reply to your message? Have you ever worried that someone you care about might leave you? Have you ever found yourself overthinking a conversation, wondering if you said something wrong, wondering if someone is upset with you, wondering if they are slowly pulling away? If you have, you are not alone. And more importantly, there may be a deeper reason behind those feelings. Today's video is about fear of abandonment, a fear that affects millions of people, often without them even realizing it. Many people think fear of abandonment means being needy, weak, overly emotional. But that is not what fear of abandonment really is. Fear of abandonment is often a wound that began long before your current relationship, long before your marriage, long before your friendships. Sometimes it began in childhood. Perhaps you grew up feeling emotionally unseen. Perhaps your parents were physically present but emotionally unavailable. Perhaps you were criticized more than you were comforted. Perhaps love felt unpredictable. Sometimes you received affection, sometimes you received rejection. And as a child, your nervous system learned an important lesson. People who love me may not stay emotionally available. Children cannot understand complex psychology. They simply adapt. And many children adapt by becoming hyper alert to signs of rejection. They become experts at reading people's moods. They become people pleasers. They become caretakers. They become the child who tries very hard not to upset anyone. Because deep down, they are afraid of losing connection. The problem is, those childhood survival strategies often follow us into childhood, any adulthood. I repeat, those childhood survival strategies often follow us into adulthood. You may now be an adult. You may have a job, a family, responsibilities, but part of your nervous system may still be scanning for signs of abandonment. This is why some people panic when becomes distant. This is why some people feel devastated when a relationship ends. This is why some people stay in unhealthy relationships far longer than they should. And it's not because they enjoy suffering, but because their fear of being abandoned feels even worse. Fear of abandonment can show up in many different ways. Some people become clingy, some become controlling, some constantly seek reassurance, some become jealous, some overgive in relationships, some tolerate disrespect, some lose themselves trying to keep the others happy, some do the opposite. Some avoid getting close to anyone at all. Because if you never become emotionally attached, you never risk being abandoned. But neither extreme brings peace. Living in constant fear of losing people is exhausting, and building walls around your heart is lonely. One of the saddest things about fear of abandonment is that it often creates the very problems people are trying to avoid. When someone constantly seeks reassurance, their partner may feel pressured. When someone becomes controlling, relationships become strained. When someone sacrifices their own needs, resentment builds. And when someone avoids vulnerability, true intimacy becomes impossible. This is why healing fear of abandonment is so important, not just for relationships, but for your relationship with yourself. Because healing begins when you understand this. Your worth is not determined by who stays and who leaves. Read that again in your mind. Your worth is not determined by who stays and who leaves. People leave for many reasons. People change, relationships change, life changes, but your value as a human being does not disappear when someone walks away. Many people spend years trying to make themselves good enough so nobody will leave. Good enough partner, good enough friend, good enough child, good enough parent. But healing begins with when you stop chasing worthiness. I repeat, healing begins when you stop chasing worthiness and start recognizing that you were always worthy. Healing fear of abandonment is not about becoming cold. It is not about pretending you don't care. It is not about pushing people away. Healing is learning that you can survive disappointment. You can survive rejection. You can survive loss. And you can still remain whole. You can love people deeply without losing yourself. You can care about people without abandoning your own needs. You can build healthy relationships without living in constant fear. If this video spoke to something you have been carrying silently, please remember this. Your fear makes sense. There is a reason it exists, but it does not have to control the rest of your life. Healing is possible, understanding is possible, and emotional safety is possible. Take care of yourself and thank you for listening. Fear of abandonment is often just one piece of a deeper story. If you would like to better understand emotional loneliness, hidden pain, survival mode, self worth, emotional healing, my book may help you. My book name is Why You Feel Empty Even When You Are Strong. It's available on Amazon. Link is in description. Why trauma turns into anger. Before we begin, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever reacted to something and later wondered, why did I get so angry? Have you ever found yourself snapping at people you care about? Have you ever felt irritated, frustrated, or emotionally overwhelmed, even when the situation did not seem serious? And have you ever back afterwards and thought that reaction was bigger than the situation? If you have, you are not alone. Because sometimes anger is not really about anger. Sometimes anger is pain wearing armor. Sometimes anger is grief that never had a chance to be expressed. Sometimes anger is fear that has been buried for years. And sometimes anger is trauma that has never healed. Many people believe anger is the problem, but in reality, anger is often a messenger. It is a signal, a warning light, a symptom. And if we only focus on the anger, we often miss the deeper wound underneath it. Today's video is about understanding why trauma often turns into anger, why some people become short tempered, why some people explode emotionally, why some people become defensive, why some people seem angry all the time, and why many good people carry anger they do not fully understand. The truth is, most people are not born angry. They become angry, and often their anger has a story of pain, a story of rejection, a story of neglect, a story of fear, a story of being hurt in ways they never learned how to process. Sometimes that story begins in childhood. Perhaps you grew up in a home where you did not feel safe. Perhaps there was constant criticism, constant conflict, constant tension. Perhaps you learned very early that your feelings did not matter. Or perhaps you learned that showing sadness was dangerous, showing fear was weakness, and showing vulnerability led to more pain. When children do not feel emotionally safe, they cannot always express what they are truly feeling. A child may feel hurt, but be unable to say it. A child may feel rejected, but not understand why. A child may feel frightened, but have nowhere to turn. And when those emotions remain trapped for years, they often transform into something easier to access: anger. Because anger feels powerful, sadness feels vulnerable, fear feels vulnerable, rejection feels vulnerable, but anger feels strong. Anger creates the illusion of protection, and many people unconsciously learn that anger is safe than pain. This is why some adults become angry when they are actually hurt, angry when they are disappointed, angry when they feel ignored, angry when they feel rejected, angry when they feel abandoned. Because underneath the anger, there is often a much deeper emotional wound asking to be seen. And here is something important to understand: trauma does not always come from dramatic events. Sometimes trauma comes from what was missing: missing emotional support, missing affection, missing safety, missing validation, missing connection. Sometimes the deepest wounds are not caused by what happened, they are caused by what never happened. If this message spoke to something you have been silently carrying, my book, Strong Outside, Empty Inside, is available now on Amazon. You can find the link in the video description and pinned comment below. Thank you for listening and take care. I'm trying to find myself again. Who am I beneath the pain? Hi, before we begin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever said to yourself, I don't know who I am anymore? Or perhaps I'm still trying to find myself. If you have, you're not alone. Many people reach a point in life where they feel disconnected from themselves. They continue working, they continue taking care of responsibilities, they continue showing up for others, but deep down they feel lost. And today's video is for those people. Do you feel lost? Maybe your life looks normal from the outside. You have a job, a family, responsibilities, people around you, but inside something feels different. Something feels missing. You may find yourself thinking, I don't feel like the person I used to be. I don't recognize myself anymore. Where did the real me go? And perhaps the most painful question is, how did I get here? Maybe you are not the problem. I want to share something important with you. Maybe you are not the problem. Maybe you are not weak. Maybe there is nothing wrong with you. Perhaps you have simply been carrying emotional pain for a very long time. Pain that was never fully understood. Pain that was never fully healed. Many people spend years blaming themselves when the real problem is the pain they have been carrying. Childhood wounds stay with us. Some wounds cannot be seen. They do not leave scars on the skin, but they leave scars on the heart. Perhaps you grew up in a home filled with criticism. Perhaps there was anger, fear, conflict, or emotional neglect. Maybe you never felt truly safe. Maybe you never felt truly understood. And those experiences often stay with us long after childhood has ended. Childhood ends, but the effects remain. Many people believe that once childhood is over, the past no longer matters. But psychology tells us something different. The experiences we have as a children often shape how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and how we move through life. Childhood may end, but its effect often remains, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. Why am I like this? Perhaps you overthink everything. Perhaps you worry constantly. Perhaps you fear people will leave you. Perhaps a small situations affect you more deeply than they affect others. And maybe you have asked yourself, am I like this? Why do I react this way? Why do I struggle so much? Often the answers are not found in the present. Are found in the experiences that shaped us long ago. Why do we start seeing ourselves as less? No child is born believing they are not good enough. That belief develops over time through criticism, through rejection, through neglect, through repeated experiences that make us question our worth. Eventually, we begin to believe maybe I'm not enough, maybe something is wrong with me. And those beliefs become part of how we see ourselves. When we start blaming ourselves over time, over time, many people stop blaming the situation and start blaming themselves. They say things like, I'm not good enough. I always fail. I ruin everything. There must be something wrong with me. But often these thoughts are not the truth. They are echoes from old experiences, old messages, old wounds that have stayed with us for years. So, what is the real wound? Many people believe their biggest wound is what happened to them, but often the deeper wound is something else: loneliness, feeling unwanted, feeling unseen, feeling misunderstood, feeling abandoned. Sometimes people lose someone they love deeply, and when that person leaves, it feels as though a part of them leaves too. People only see the anger. When someone becomes angry, people see the anger. When someone drinks too much, people see the drinking. When someone pushes people away, people see the behavior. But very few people see the pain underneath, the grief, the loneliness, the fear, the hurt. And sometimes what needs healing is not the behavior itself, but the pain hidden beneath it, the pain hidden behind the anger. Many people believe anger is the problem, but often anger is only the visible part. Underneath the anger, there is usually something much deeper: pain, fear, loneliness, disappointment, grief. Sometimes people become angry because they feel hurt. Sometimes they become angry because they feel rejected. Sometimes they become angry because they feel unseen. And sometimes they become angry because they have been carrying emotional pain for so long that they no longer know how to express it. This is why understanding your anger is so important, because healing the anger often means healing the pain underneath it. I don't want to be like this. Many people struggle with behaviors they do not like. They lose their temper, they push people away, they shut down emotionally, they react in ways they later regret. And afterwards, they often feel guilty, ashamed, disappointed in themselves. They tell themselves, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to keep repeating the same patterns. But healing does not begin with self hatred. Healing begins with understanding. Because when we understand why we react the way we do, we can begin to change. Who am I beneath the pain? Let me ask you an important question. If you remove the fear, the anger, the grief, the loneliness, the emotional wounds, who would you be? Who is the real person underneath all that pain? The person who existed before the hurt, before the disappointments, before the heartbreak, before the survival mode. Perhaps that person is still there. Perhaps they have never disappeared. Perhaps they have simply been hidden beneath years of emotional pain. Maybe you were never lost. Many people spend years saying, I'm trying to find myself. But maybe the truth is different. Maybe you were never lost. Maybe your true self became buried beneath fear, beneath grief, beneath trauma, beneath survival. And now you are slowly finding your way back. Not because you are becoming someone new, but because you are reconnecting with who you have always been. You are not broken, you are hurt. If you have spent years believing there is something wrong with you, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken, you are not a failure, you are not beyond healing. You have simply been carrying pain for a very long time. And pain changes people. Pain affects how we think, how we feel, how we trust, and how we connect with others. But pain is not your identity. Pain is an experience, not who you are. You have survived things that were difficult. You have carried burdens that were heavy. You have kept going when life was hard. That is not weakness, that is strength. And perhaps now the goal is no longer just to survive. Perhaps now it is time to begin healing. Now it's time to understand yourself. If you have seen yourself somewhere in this story, if some part of today's conversation feels familiar, you may be wondering, now what? What do I do with all of this? And that is where healing begins. Healing does not begin when the pain disappears. Healing begins with when we stop running from the pain and start understanding it. For years, you may have been trying to survive, trying to get through one day at a time, trying to carry burdens nobody else could see. But perhaps now it is time to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened to me?" That single question can change everything. Stop being so hard on yourself. Many people speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to someone else they love. They tell themselves, "I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I should be over this by now." But what if you spoke to yourself differently? What if instead of criticism, you offered yourself understanding? What if instead of blame, you offered yourself compassion? You have been through things that were difficult. You have carried pain that was real. Perhaps it is time to stop fighting yourself and start standing beside yourself. Begin to understand your pain. Healing does not require you to pretend the pain never happened. Healing asks you to understand it. Ask yourself, what hurts the most? What am I still carrying? What am I afraid of? What loss have I never fully grieved? Sometimes we spend years trying to fix the symptoms without understanding the wound. But when we begin to understand our pain, we begin to understand ourselves. And understanding creates the possibility of healing. The pain behind the anger. The next time you feel anger rising inside you, pause for a moment. Take a breath, take a breath, just breathe and ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Is it anger or is it hurt? Is it anger or is it disappointment? Is it anger or is it fear? Very often, anger is simply the bodyguard standing in front of a deeper emotion. And when we learn to listen to what is underneath, we begin to heal the real wound. Your past is not your whole story. Your past matters. What happened to you matters. The pain mattered. The fear mattered. The loneliness mattered. But your past is not your entire story. Your wounds are not your identity. Your mistakes are not your identity. Your fears are not your identity. You are more than what happened to you. You are more than what hurt you. You are more than what you survived. And perhaps the most important things to remember is this: your childhood may explain your struggles, but it does not have to decide your future. You can learn, you can grow, you can heal, you can build healthy relationships, you can trust yourself again, you can create a life that feels safe. And one day you may realize that the person you were searching for was never truly gone. They were there all along, waiting for you to come home to yourself. You are more than your wounds. For a long time, you may have defined yourself by what happened to you: the abuse, the rejection, the loss, the mistakes, the disappointments. But your wounds are only one chapter of your story. They are not the entire book. You are more than the pain you have carried. You are more than the fears you struggle with. You are more than the experiences that hurt you. There is more to you than survival. There is more to you than suffering. There is more to you than your past. Healing begins with small steps. Many people believe healing requires a dramatic transformation, but most healing happens quietly, slowly, one small step at a time. A healthier choice, a better boundary, an honest conversation, a moment of self respect, a moment of self compassion. You do not need to heal everything today. You do not need to have all the answers. You only need to keep taking the next small step, because small steps taken constantly can completely change a life. The child who survived. I want you to think about the child you once were, the child who lived through difficult experiences, the child who carried fears they could not explain, the child who felt lonely, the child who felt confused, the child who simply wanted to feel safe. The child did the best they could. That child survived situations they never should have faced. That child carried burdens that were never there to carry. And perhaps today, instead of judging that child, you can begin to appreciate their strength, because without the child, you would not be here today. You were meant for more than survival. For years, you may have been focused on getting through life, getting through the day, getting through the week, getting through another difficult situation. But you were not born simply to survive. You were born to live, to grow, to love, to connect, to dream, to build, to experience joy. You deserve more than a life controlled by fear. You deserve more than a life controlled by old wounds. There is a difference between surviving life and truly living it. And perhaps now it is time to move from survival to heal, and from healing to living. Final thoughts. If today's video spoke to something you have been carrying silently, I want you to remember this. You are not broken, you are not weak, you are not lost. You have been carrying pain, and pain can heal. You have been carrying fear, and fear can soften. You have been carrying wounds, and wounds can recover. The person you have been searching for many years may not be somewhere out there. They may still be inside you, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be understood, waiting to be accepted. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and remember, healing is not about becoming someone else. It is about coming home to who you truly are. Thank you for spending this time with me. Please take gentle care of yourself and thank you for listening. If today's conversation spoke to you, something you have been carrying silently, and you would like to better understand emotional loneliness, hidden pain, survival mode, self worth, and emotional healing, my book, Strong Outside, Empty Inside, may help. The book explores many of the emotional struggles people carry for years while appearing strong on the outside. You can find the link in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Thank you for listening. Only surviving is not enough. Hello and welcome. My name is Uzma and I am from Holistic Heart Counseling. Thank you for taking a few moments out of your day to be here. Today we are going to talk about something many people experience but rarely speak about openly, the difference between surviving and true living. If you have ever felt like you are getting through life rather than fully living it, then this conversation is for you. So, before we begin, I would like to ask you something. Have you ever felt like your entire life has been about getting through the next day, not living, not growing, not dreaming, just surviving? Maybe you wake up every morning, go to work, take care of responsibilities, pay the bills, answer messages, do what needs to be done, and then do it all again tomorrow. And from the outside, it looks like you are functioning, but inside, you feel tired, disconnected, empty. You are alive, but you don't really feel alive. Many people spend years in survival mode without even realizing it. And today's video is for those people because surviving may keep you alive, but surviving alone is not enough to build a life. As Maya Angelou once said, the purpose of life is not merely to survive, but to thrive. And perhaps it is time for us to talk about the difference. When survival becomes your identity, sometimes survival begins so early that we forget there is another way to live. Maybe you grew up in a home where you had to be strong. Maybe you learned very early not to trust people. Maybe life taught you that safety could disappear at any time. And so you adapted. You became careful. You became independent. You became strong. But somewhere along the way, survival stopped being something you did. and it became someone you were. You stopped asking, what makes me happy? And started asking, what do I need to do to get through today? You stopped dreaming, stopped exploring, stopped taking chances. Not because you were lazy, not because you lacked potential, but because survival became your full time job. Carl Jung said that I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And perhaps that is one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves today. Who are you beyond survival? The hidden cost of survival mode. The problem with survival mode is that it works. It helps you get through difficult situations. It helps you endure pain. It helps you keep going when life becomes hard. But survival mode also comes with a cost. When you're always focused on protecting yourself, you stop experiencing parts of life. You stop taking healthy risks. You stop trusting people. You stop believing in possibilities. You become so busy avoiding pain that you forget how to create joy. And one day you wake up and realize you have spent years protecting yourself from life instead of fully living it. There is a saying, a ship is safe in harbor, but that is not what ships are built for. And perhaps the same is true for human beings. We are not built only to survive, we were built to grow, to connect, to love, to create, to live. What if the danger is gone? Let me ask you something. What if the danger you are preparing for is no longer there? What if your mind is still fighting battles that ended years ago? Many people who experience trauma continue living as though the emergency never ended. Their body remains tense, their mind remains alert, their heart remains guarded, not because they want to suffer, but because their nervous system learned to expect danger. Yet, healing often begins with a simple realization: the danger may be over. You're not that child anymore. You are not trapped in that moment anymore. You are not powerless anymore. You survived. And now, perhaps, it is time to begin living the life you never had time to build. Many people have spent so much time surviving that they never had time to ask themselves what kind of life they actually want. What are your dreams? What brings you peace? What excites you? What makes you feel alive? For some people, those questions feel uncomfortable because nobody ever asked them before. They spend years managing crisis, years dealing with pain, years carrying responsibilities, and now they find themselves asking, what do I want? And sometimes that question is the beginning of a whole new chapter. As Viktor Frankl wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Maybe your next chapter is not about surviving what happened. Maybe your next chapter is about building what comes next. The dreams you put on hold. Have you noticed something? When people are in survival mode, their dreams are usually the first thing to disappear. Not because they stopped caring, not because they stopped wanting a better life, but because survival takes all their energy. When your mind is focused on getting through today, it becomes difficult to think about next year. When your heart is carrying pain, it becomes difficult to imagine joy. And slowly, the dreams that once excited you get pushed aside. Maybe you wanted to travel. Maybe you wanted to start a business. Maybe you wanted a healthy relationship. Maybe you wanted a different life. But somewhere along the way, you became so busy surviving that you forgot to keep dreaming. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Perhaps it is time to give yourself permission to dream again. Fear is not always telling the truth. Let me tell you something important. Fear has a job. Its job is to protect you. But fear is not always accurate. Sometimes fear tells you, don't trust anyone, don't try, don't take the risk, stay where it's safe. And while that may protect you from disappointment, it may also keep you away from opportunities. The opportunity to love, the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to become more than your past. Many people think courage means having no fear, but courage means moving forward even when fear is present. Nelson Mandela once said, courage is not the absence of fear, it is the triumph over it. Fear may have protected you once, but fear should not be allowed to design your future. What would your life look like if you believed in yourself? I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up tomorrow. Imagine waking up tomorrow and fully believing that you are capable of healing, capable of change, capable of building healthy relationships, and capable of creating a meaningful life. How would you walk differently? How would you speak differently? What decisions would you make? Many people are waiting for confidence before they take action. But confidence often comes after action, not before. You do not become confident and then try. You try, and confidence slowly grows. Every strong person you admire started as someone who was uncertain, someone who was afraid, someone who doubted themselves, but they kept moving forward, and that made all the differences. The future is still being written. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that their future will look exactly like their past. Because life has been painful, they expect more pain. Because they have been rejected, they expect rejection. Because they have struggled, they expect more struggle. But the future is not a copy of the past. The future is being created right now by the choices you make today. Every healthy decision matters. Every boundary matters. Every step toward healing matters. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can influence tomorrow. As C.S. Lewis said, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And perhaps that ending starts today. Hope is more powerful than you think. Many people underestimate hope. They think hope is weakness, wishful thinking, fantasy. But hope is one of the most powerful psychological forces we have. Hope is what allows people to rebuild after loss. Hope is what helps people recover after trauma. Hope is what helps people keep going when life becomes difficult. Hope says, my story is not over. There is still more ahead. Things can get better. And sometimes hope begins with something very small, a new thought, a new decision, a new possibility, a belief that maybe, just maybe, your best days are not behind you. They are still waiting for you. And that possibility alone can change a life. Trust yourself again. That's right. Trust yourself again. For a long time, you may have trusted fear more than yourself. Fear said, don't take the chance. Fear said, stay where you are. Fear said, what if it goes wrong? And perhaps fear was trying to protect you. But there comes a point when protection becomes a prison. Many people spend years waiting for certainty before they move forward. But certainty rarely comes first. Trust comes first. Then growth follows. I'm not talking about trusting everyone. I'm talking about trusting yourself. Trusting that if life becomes difficult, you will find a way through it. As Brene Brown said, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. And perhaps it is time to choose courage. Stop waiting for permission. Have you noticed how many people spend their lives waiting? Waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting for someone to believe in them, waiting for life to become easier. But what if that moment never comes? What if life is waiting for you to take the first step? Many people are still asking permission from voices that no longer exist. The teacher who criticized them, the parent who doubted them, the people who made them feel small. But you are no longer that child. You do not need permission to heal. You do not need permission to grow. You do not need permission to build a better life. The permission you are waiting for may need to come from you. Become the person your younger self needed. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the younger version of you, the child who felt afraid, the child who felt lonely, the child who needed comfort, the child who needed protection, the child who needed encouragement. Now ask yourself, what did that child need most? Maybe they needed someone to believe in them. Maybe they needed someone to listen. Maybe they needed someone to tell them, you matter, you are enough, you are safe. And here is the beautiful thing, today, you can become that person. You can become that person. You can become the voice of encouragement that was missing. You can become the source of kindness that was missing. You can become the safe place that was missing. Healing often begins when we give ourselves what we once needed from others. Growth begins where survival ends. Many people think healing is the final destination, but healing is actually the beginning. Healing creates space, a space for confidence, a space for purpose, a space for healthy relationships, a space for dreams. For years, you may have focused on avoiding pain, and that was understandable. But there comes a time when life asks a different question. Not what are you trying to escape from, but what are you moving forward? Yeah, what are you moving toward? That question changes everything because thriving is not just the absence of pain, thriving is the presence of meaning. Your life can be bigger than your pain. Pain has a way of becoming the center of our world. When we are hurting, it can feel as though pain is all there is. But your life is bigger than your pain. Your future is bigger than your past. Your potential is bigger than your fears. Your possibilities are bigger than your wounds. The chapter you are living right now is important, But it is not the whole story. As Rumi wrote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Perhaps your struggles have not only broken you, perhaps they have also taught you, strengthened you, prepared you. And perhaps the best part of your story has not happened yet. Because sometimes the people who have suffered the most become the people who grow the most. And maybe that journey is beginning for you today. The life waiting for you. Let me ask you a different question. What if your best years are not behind you? What if they are still ahead of you? Many people spend so much time looking back that they forget to look forward. They reply old conversations, old mistakes, old regrets, old wounds. And while they are looking at what was lost, they miss what is still possible. The truth is, there is still a life waiting for you, a life that has not been fully lived yet, a life that has not been fully discovered yet. As Helen Keller once said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Perhaps your next adventure begins the moment you stop living only in the past. Stop measuring your life by your wounds. Many people unknowingly measure their worth by their struggles. They think, I have been hurt, I have failed, I have lost so much, and slowly their wounds become their identity. But your wounds are something that happened to you. They are not who you are. You are not your trauma. You are not your anxiety. You are not your mistakes. You are not your fears. You are a human being with strengths, talents, dreams, and possibilities. As Viktor Frankl wrote, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have the final say. What does thriving actually look like? When people hear the word thriving, they often think about money, success, achievements. But thriving is much deeper than that. Thriving means waking up with hope. Thriving means feeling peace inside your own mind. Thriving means building healthy relationships. Thriving means having goals that excite you. Thriving means knowing that your life has meaning. Thriving is not a perfect life. Nobody has a perfect life. Thriving is having difficult days without losing yourself. Thriving is facing challenges without losing hope. Thriving is continuing to grow even when life is not easy. And that kind of life is possible. A new chapter can begin today. Many people are waiting for a special day, a day when they finally feel ready, a day when they finally feel confident, a day when all their fears disappear. But life rarely works that way. A new chapter begins the moment you decide. The moment you decide to stop letting the past control the future. The moment you decide to believe healing is possible. The moment you decide that survival is no longer enough. Every meaningful change starts with the decision. A decision to take one step, then another, then another. And before you know it, you're walking toward a completely different life. You were meant for more than survival. If you remember one thing from today's video, remember this: you were not born simply to survive. You were not born to spend your entire life carrying fear. You were not born to remain trapped by old wounds. You were not born to keep shrinking yourself because of what happened in the past. You were born to grow, to learn, to connect, to love, to dream, to contribute, to live. There is a quote often attributed to Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Perhaps the life waiting for you is bigger than you imagine. Perhaps there is more strength inside you than you realize. Perhaps is more healing available than you believe. And perhaps the person you are becoming is stronger, wiser, and more capable than the person you once thought you could be. You do not stop at survival. Do not settle for merely getting through life. Choose growth, choose healing, choose hope, choose life. Because only surviving is not enough. You deserve the chance to thrive. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take gentle care of yourself and remember, your story is not finished yet. If today's conversation resonated with you and you would like to explore emotional healing, self worth, loneliness, trauma recovery, and the journey from survival to a more meaningful life, my book, Strong Outside and Empty Inside, may help. The link to the book can be found in the video description and the pinned comment below. Thank you for listening. Why high achievers feel empty. Hello and welcome. My name is Uzma and I'm from Holistic Heart Counseling. Today I want to talk about something that many successful people experience but rarely discuss openly. From the outside, everything looks fine. You may have a good job, a successful business, professional qualifications, financial stability. People may even admire you. They may say, "You are doing so well. You have achieved so much. You should be proud of yourself." And yet, when you sit quietly by yourself, You feel something is missing. You keep moving, you keep working, you keep achieving, but somehow the feeling of satisfaction never stays for very long. You reach one goal, then immediately focus on the next one. You achieve something important, yet instead of feeling fulfilled, you feel strangely empty. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Because sometimes the problem is not a lack of success. Sometimes the problem is that we have spent so much time building a successful life that we forgot to build a meaningful one. As Jim Carrey once said, I wish everyone could become rich and famous so they could see that it's not the answer. Let's talk about why this happens. The achievement trap. Many high achievers believe that happiness exists somewhere in the future. They tell themselves, I will be happy when I get promoted. I will be happy when I earn more money. I will be happy when I finish this project. I will be happy when my business succeeds. And for a while, that goal creates motivation, it creates excitement, it creates hope. But then something interesting happens. The goal is achieved, the promotion arrives, the business grows, the degree is completed, the house is purchased, the dream becomes reality, and for a brief moment there is satisfaction. But then the feeling fades and a new goal takes its place. Many successful people spend years chasing achievement after achievement without ever stopping to ask, what am I actually looking for? Because often they are not looking for success, they are looking for something much deeper: connection, peace, belonging, self worth, purpose. And no amount of achievement can permanently fill needs that are emotional in nature. As Albert Einstein once said, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. When your worth depends on performance. One reason many high achievers feel empty is because they learned very early in life that their value depended on what they did. Perhaps they were praised for achievement, praised for good grades, praised for being responsible, praised for taking care of others, praised for never causing problems. Slowly, they begin to believe I am valuable when I perform. I am valuable when I achieve. I am valuable when I succeed. But what happens when achievement becomes the only source of self worth? Life becomes exhausting because you constantly feel the need to prove yourself. You feel pressure to keep succeeding, pressure to keep producing, pressure to keep moving forward, even when you are tired, even when you are struggling, even when you desperately need rest. Many high achievers are not running towards success. They are running away from the fear of not feeling good enough. And there is a huge difference between those two things. As Brené Brown says, you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not because of what you achieve, not because of what you earn, not because of your job title, simply because you are a human. Success became a survival strategy. Many people assume that high achievers are simply ambitious, and sometimes they are, but sometimes something much deeper is happening. Sometimes achievement is not just about success. Sometimes achievement is about survival. Think about the child who grew up feeling unseen, the child who felt they had to earn love, the child who learned that mistakes led to criticism, the child who felt they had to prove themselves to be accepted. That child often grows into an adult who works harder than everyone else, not because they love working, but because deep down, they are still trying to earn something they never fully received: approval, validation, recognition, a sense of worth. From the outside, people see confidence, but inside, there may still be a voice asking, am I enough yet? Have I done enough yet? Will people value me now? The problem is that achievement can bring temporary validation, but it cannot heal an old emotional wound, because every achievement eventually fades, and then the person starts chasing the next one, not realizing that what they truly need is not another achievement. What they need is healing. The loneliness nobody talks about. One of the biggest surprises for many successful people is this: success does not automatically remove loneliness. I repeat, success does not automatically remove loneliness. In fact, for some people, success makes loneliness even more visible, because once the goal is achieved, there are fewer distractions, less chasing, less running, and suddenly they are left alone with their thoughts. Many professionals have hundreds of contracts. Many professionals have hundreds of contacts, thousands of followers, dozens of business relationships, but very few people they can truly be themselves with. Very few people who know what they are carrying emotionally. Very few people who see the person behind the success. Some people have built successful careers while quietly carrying grief. Others are carrying stress, relationships struggles, family difficulties, childhood wounds, or emotional exhaustion. The world celebrates their success, but nobody notices their pain, and that can feel incredibly lonely. As Robin Williams once said, the worst thing in life is not to end up alone. The worst thing in life is ending up with people who make you feel alone. Success may attract attention, but attention is not the same as connection. Why nothing ever feels like enough? Have you ever achieved something important and then immediately started thinking about the next thing? Many high achievers live with a feeling that they can never fully relax, never fully enjoy the moment, never fully appreciate how far they have come. There is always another goal, another project, another responsibility, another challenge. The mind becomes trapped in a cycle of what's next? What else should I do? How can I improve? Now, growth is not a bad thing. Ambition is not a bad thing. Goals are not a bad thing. But when your entire sense of value depends on constantly achieving, rest begins to feel uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels uncomfortable. Simply being yourself feels uncomfortable. Many high achievers know how to perform, but they do not know how to simply be. And that is why, even after reaching goals they once dreamed about, they still feel something is missing because fulfillment does not come from constantly becoming more. Sometimes fulfillment begins when we learn to appreciate who we already are. As Lao Tzu wisely said, he who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. And for many high achievers, that may be one of the hardest lessons they ever learn. When success turns into exhaustion, there comes a people in many high achievers' lives when they begin to feel tired, not physically tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired, spiritually tired. For years, they have been carrying responsibilities, meeting expectations, solving problems, looking after other people, keeping everything together. And eventually they start asking themselves, why am I so exhausted? I have achieved so much. Why don't I feel happier? Why does everything feel heavy? The answer is often simple because achievement cannot replace rest. Success cannot replace peace. And productivity cannot replace emotional well being. Many people spend years investing in their careers while neglecting their emotional health. Then one day, their mind and body begin asking for attention. Burnout is not always caused by working too much. Sometimes burnout happens because you have been carrying too much for too long without support, without rest, without emotional recovery. As Ariana Huffington said, we think success is money and power, but true success includes well being, wisdom, and purpose. And perhaps that is what many people are missing, not more achievement, but more balance. What are you really looking for? Let me ask you something. What are you really chasing? If you reach every goal on your list tomorrow, what would you hope to feel? Peace, happiness, connection, love, fulfillment? Because most people are not actually chasing money, they are chasing a feeling. They believe that achievement will finally make them feel secure, feel valued, feel respected. feel important, feel enough. But emotional needs cannot be permanently satisfied by external success. This is why some people reach the top of their profession and still feel lonely, still feel anxious, still feel empty. The real question is not what have I achieved? The real question is how do I feel when I am alone with myself? Because no amount of success can replace a healthy relationship with yourself. Fulfillment is different from success. Success and fulfillment are not the same thing. Success is often measured by the outside world: job titles, income, awards, achievements, recognition. Fulfillment is something much quieter, much deeper. Fulfillment comes from living in alignment with your values, having meaningful relationships, taking care of your emotional health, doing work that feels purposeful, being able to rest without guilt, being able to enjoy your life while you are living it. Many people spend years building a successful career, but very little time building a fulfilling life. The goal is not to stop achieving. The goal is to stop believing that achievement alone will make you whole. As Frankl wrote, success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. In other words, fulfillment often appears when we stop chasing it and start living according to what truly matters. The question every high achiever must ask. Before we finish today, I want to leave you with a question. If nobody was watching, if nobody was judging, and if nobody was comparing, how would you choose to live your life? How would you choose to live your life? Would you slow down? Would you spend more time with loved ones? Would you take better care of yourself? Would you finally give yourself permission to rest? Would you stop trying too hard? Would you stop trying so hard to prove your worth? Because perhaps the greatest achievement is not becoming more successful. Perhaps the greatest achievement is becoming more yourself. The version of you that exists underneath the pressure, underneath the expectations, underneath the endless striving. You do not need to earn your worth. You do not need another achievement to prove that you matter, because you matter already. And perhaps the next chapter of your life is not about doing more. Perhaps it is about living more. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take gentle care of yourself and remember, success may impress people, but fulfillment is what nourishes the soul. If today's discussion resonated with you, and you would like to explore emotional loneliness, self worth, hidden pain, burnout, healing, and the journey towards a more meaningful life, my book Strong Outside, Empty Inside may help. The book explores many of the struggles that the high achievers quietly carry while appearing successful on the outside. The link to the book can be found in the video's description and in the pinned comment below. Thank you for listening.